Hello my friends, welcome back to Sarvar.English. Today, we are going to talk about something very powerful, something that every English learner can do, right now, without a partner, without a classroom, and without any special equipment. We are going to talk about how to practice English conversations inside your head. Yes, inside your own head. And I want to show you today that this is not just a simple idea. This is a real skill. And like any skill, the more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Let us start with something you already know. You talk to yourself inside your head every single day. You probably do not even notice it. In the morning, you might think, I need to get up. I'm going to be late again. Before dinner, you might think, what should I cook tonight? Do I have enough vegetables? When you are leaving home, you might think, did I lock the door? Where did I put my keys? These thoughts happen naturally. You do not plan them. You do not prepare them. Your mind is always talking to you in your first language. It happens automatically. Now here is the important question. What if some of those thoughts happened in English? What if, just some of the time, your mind started talking to you in English? That is exactly what we are going to practice today. And over time, with consistent daily effort, this habit can change the way you speak English completely. So let's begin with the foundation. The most important thing to understand is this. When you practice inside your head, you are doing something very valuable. You are giving your brain a safe environment to work with English. Nobody is watching you. Nobody is waiting for your answer. Nobody will correct you or judge you. Your mind becomes a private practice room. And in that private room, you can take risks, make mistakes, stop, restart, change your words, and try again. This is the kind of freedom that most learners never have in real conversations. And that is exactly why it is so effective. Now, let us talk about how to actually do this. Well, the first technique is to practice full short conversations, not just single words or sentences. Many learners study vocabulary. They learn individual words. But speaking is not about single words. Speaking is about how one sentence connects to another sentence. It is about how a question leads to an answer. It is about how a conversation flows from beginning to end. So when you practice inside your head, try to imagine a complete short conversation, from the first sentence to the last. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine that you are going to a cafe. Before you walk in, you close your eyes for a moment, and you run through the conversation in your mind. The person behind the counter says, "Hello, what can I get for you?" You answer, "Can I have a medium coffee, please?" The person asks, "Would you like any milk or sugar?" You say, "Just a little milk, please." "No sugar." The person says, "Sure. Is that for here or to take away?" You answer, "To take away, please." The person says, "That will be $2.50. You say, "Here you go." "Thank you." The person says, "Thank you. Have a great day." You smile and say, "You too, Al." You have just practiced a complete, real-life conversation. It is short. It is natural. It is exactly the kind of conversation that happens every single day in English-speaking countries. And when you walk into that cafe for real, your brain has already done this before. It feels familiar. It feels ready. Your confidence goes up because your preparation was real. Now, let's talk about a very common problem that many English learners face. You probably recognize this situation. Someone asks you a question in English. You understand the question perfectly. You know the words. You know the grammar. But something happens. You freeze. Your mind goes blank. The seconds feel very long. You start thinking about grammar rules. You try to find the perfect sentence. The other person is waiting, and the longer they wait, the more nervous you feel. And the more nervous you feel, the harder it becomes to say anything at all. This happens to learners at every level, and it happens for one very specific reason. The brain has not practiced producing that answer quickly enough. Understanding English is one skill. Producing English quickly and naturally is a completely different skill. And the only way to build that second skill is to practice, again and again, until the words come out automatically. Practicing inside your head is one of the most powerful ways to do exactly that. Let me give you a specific example. Imagine that someone asks you, "What do you usually do at the weekend?" You know the words. You have the vocabulary. But in a real conversation, you may feel surprised by the question. You may not know where to begin. So let us practice this now inside your head. Think about your weekend. What do you actually do? Maybe you visit family. Maybe you go for a walk. Maybe you cook, watch films, go shopping, or just rest at home. Now form a simple answer. You could say, "At the weekend, I usually spend time with my family. We sometimes go for a walk or have lunch together. In the evenings, I like to watch a film or read." That is a perfectly natural, complete answer. It is not complicated. But because you have thought about it, prepared it, and repeated it inside your head, it is now ready to come out when you need it. Let us now talk about the second technique. Play both people in the conversation. This is very important, and many learners forget to do it. When you practice inside your head, do not only think about your own answer, think about what the other person might say first. Think about what they might ask next. Think about how the conversation moves forward. When you play both sides, you train your brain to expect certain questions and to listen carefully to what the other person says. This is much closer to a real conversation. Let me show you what this looks like. Imagine you are checking into a hotel. You walk up to the reception desk. The receptionist says, "Good evening. Welcome. Do you have a reservation?" You answer, "Yes, I do. It is under the name James Miller." The receptionist says, "Let me just check that for you. Yes, I can see the booking. You are staying for 2 nights. Is that correct?" You say, "Yes, that is right." The receptionist says, "Wonderful. Could I take a copy of your passport, please?" You answer, "Of course. Here you are." The receptionist says, "Thank you very much. Here is your key card. You are in room 412, on the 4th floor. The lift is just to your left. Breakfast is served from 7 until 10 in the morning. Is there anything else I can help you with?" You answer, "No, that is everything. Thank you very much." The receptionist smiles and says, "Enjoy your stay." Now read that again, and notice how much is happening. You are not just answering questions. You are following the conversation. You are responding to new information. You are being polite and natural. And all of this happened inside your head, in English, with no pressure at all. Now, the third technique is what I call small changes, big progress. When you practice a conversation, you do not need a new topic every time. In fact, practicing the same situation multiple times is extremely valuable. But the key is to make one small change each time. This keeps your brain active and helps you prepare for different real-life situations. Let me show you how this works using a restaurant scenario. The first time, you say to the waiter, "I would like the grilled chicken, please." The second time, you change your order. You say, "I would like the pasta with tomato sauce, please." The third time, you add a special request. You say, "I would like the pasta, please, but could you make it without cheese? I am allergic." The fourth time, you ask a question before ordering. You say, "Excuse me, does the pasta contain any dairy? I am lactose intolerant." The fifth time, something goes wrong. The waiter says, "I am sorry, but the pasta is not available today." And you respond, "Oh, that is a shame. In that case, I will have the grilled salmon, please." Each time, you are using the same basic situation, but you are making it slightly different. You are preparing your brain for variations. Because real conversations are full of variations. Real life does not always follow the script you prepared. And the more variations you practice, the more flexible and confident your English becomes. The fourth technique is to use thinking expressions. These are short phrases that buy you time to think when you are in a real conversation. And they are incredibly useful. Every fluent English speaker uses these expressions naturally. They are not signs of weakness. They are signs of natural, comfortable conversation. Here are some of the most useful ones. You can say, "That is a good question." Or, "Let me think about that for a moment." Or, "Well, it depends, really." Or, "I am not completely sure, but I think." Or, That is interesting. I have not thought about that before. These small expressions do two very important things. First, they give you a few extra seconds to organize your thoughts. Second, they make you sound more natural and conversational, because real speakers say these things all the time. Now, let me give you an example of how to use these in a conversation. You practice inside your head. Imagine someone asks you, "Do you think it is better to live in a big city or a small town?" This is a discussion question. It is more complex than ordering coffee, so your brain needs a moment. You begin with, "Well, that is a good question. I think it really depends on the person and what they are looking for in life." Now, you have time to continue. You say, "For me personally, I think I would prefer a smaller town. I like having a bit more space and a quieter life. But I understand why many people love big cities. There are more opportunities, more things to do, and the energy is very exciting." Then you add a balancing thought. You say, "I think the ideal situation would be to live near a city, but not right in the center." That answer is confident. It is natural. It is balanced. And it came from someone who knows how to use thinking expressions to give themselves the space they need. The fifth technique is preparation for important real-life situations. Think about what is coming up in your life. Maybe you have a doctor's appointment next week. Maybe you have a job interview. Maybe you need to call a bank or a government office. Maybe you are visiting a new country. These situations can feel very stressful if you go in without any preparation. But if you practice the conversation inside your head first, you can walk in feeling much calmer and much more ready. Let us practice a job interview. The interviewer sits down and says, "Thank you for coming in today. Could you start by telling me a little about yourself and your background?" You take a short breath, and you answer, "Of course. My name is Sarah, and I have been working as a marketing professional for about 6 years. I started my career in a small agency, which gave me a broad experience across many different areas. For the past 3 years, I have been working in-house for a technology company, where I manage social media, content, strategy, and email campaigns." The interviewer nods and says, "That sounds great. What would you say is your biggest strength?" You answer, "I think my biggest strength is my ability to manage multiple projects at the same time without losing focus. I am very organized and I find it easy to prioritize tasks, even when things are changing quickly." The interviewer then asks, "And can you tell me about a challenge you have faced at work and how you handled it?" You think for a moment and say, "Yes, certainly. Last year, we had a very tight deadline on a major campaign. 2 members of my team became ill at the same time, so we were short-handed. I reorganized the workflow, communicated clearly with everyone involved, and we still delivered the campaign on time. I learned a lot about staying calm under pressure." Now, in the real interview, the questions may be different. They may ask something you did not expect. But because you have practiced thinking about yourself, your experience, and your strengths in English, the words will come much more easily. You have already done the hard work inside your head. The sixth technique is to practice what to say when you do not know a word. This is something many learners are afraid of. They think that if they forget a word, the conversation is over. But that is not true at all. Native speakers forget words in their own language all the time. The difference is that they have strategies to continue speaking anyway. And you can learn those same strategies. Here are the most useful phrases. You can say, "I cannot remember the exact word right now, but it is something you used to." And then you describe it. You can say, "I am not sure what it is called in English, but it looks like." You can say, "Sorry, let me try to explain it a different way." Or you can say, "I know this in my language, but the English word is not coming to me right now. Let me give you a full example." You are having a conversation, and you want to say the word stapler, but you cannot remember it. Instead of stopping, you say, "I need one of those things. You know, it is a small machine you use to hold pieces of paper together. You push a small metal clip through the paper." The other person says, "Oh, you mean a stapler?" And you say, "Yes, exactly. A stapler. I knew what it was, but I just could not find the word." Thank you, and the conversation continues. That is a successful conversation. You forgot a word, but you did not give up. You described it. The other person understood you. They helped you. And now, you have had a positive, natural interaction. That is exactly what you are practicing for. Now, let me talk about something that takes this practice to the next level. Moving from silent practice to speaking aloud. Practicing inside your head is the first step. But your mouth needs practice too. The muscles you use for speaking in English are different from the muscles you use for speaking in your first language. Some sounds in English are very different from sounds in your language. Some words are difficult to pronounce. Some sentence rhythms feel strange at first. You will only discover these challenges when you actually open your mouth and speak. So here is a method that works really well. First, practice the conversation inside your head. Think through the whole thing silently. Second, choose 1 or 2 sentences that you want to focus on. Third, say those sentences very quietly, just a whisper. Fourth, say them again in your normal speaking voice. Fifth, record yourself on your phone. Now, when you listen back, do not focus on every small mistake. Instead, ask yourself these 3 questions. Was my meaning clear? Did I pause too often, or for too long? Was there one specific sentence that felt difficult or unnatural? Then practice just that one sentence. Say it again. Record it again. You do not need to spend a long time. Even 5 minutes of focused speaking practice can make a real difference. And here is something very important to remember. Natural English speakers are not perfect. They pause. They change their minds in the middle of a sentence. They sometimes say, "Actually, what I meant was." They repeat words. They use filler sounds like, and well, and you know. Speaking naturally does not mean speaking without any imperfections. It means speaking in a way that is easy to follow and comfortable to listen to. That is the goal, not perfection. Communication. Now, let's talk about building this into your daily routine. You do not need a special time or place for this kind of practice. Your daily life gives you many opportunities. In the morning, while you are getting ready, you can imagine telling a friend or a colleague about your plans for the day. On your way to work or school, you can imagine a short conversation with someone on the bus or train. During your lunch break, you can practice ordering food in English, even if you were at home. In the evening, you can imagine telling someone about something that happened during your day. You can practice how you would describe it. What vocabulary would you use? How would you explain the situation clearly? Try to practice one situation for several days in a row before moving to something new. For example, spend 3 days practicing, talking about your daily routine. Spend the next 3 days practicing, talking about your job or your studies. Then spend 3 days practicing conversations in shops and restaurants. Then move on to phone calls or appointments. Gradually, you are building a library of practiced conversations in your mind. And when a real situation comes, you will have something to draw from. Let us also talk about the emotional side of this practice. Many learners feel embarrassed to speak English. They are afraid of making mistakes. They are afraid of sounding strange. They are afraid that people will not understand them or will judge them. And this fear can become a wall between them and the English they already know. Here's something I want you to understand. Fear disappears with familiarity. When a situation feels familiar, it does not feel scary. And that is exactly what this kind of practice builds. Every time you imagine a conversation in your head, the situation becomes more familiar. The words become more familiar. The rhythm of the language becomes more familiar. And when the real situation arrives, your brain says, "Oh, I have been here before. I know what to do." That feeling of familiarity is what we call confidence. And confidence is not something you are born with. It is something you build, one small practice at a time. Now, practicing inside your head cannot completely replace real conversations. Real people may ask unexpected questions. They may speak quickly or use words you have never heard. They may change the subject suddenly. They may have strong accents. Real conversations will always bring surprises. And you need to experience those surprises to grow as a speaker. So please, Take every opportunity you can to speak with real people. Talk to classmates, colleagues, neighbors, shopkeepers, anyone. Use language exchange apps. Join online English conversations. Watch videos and try to respond to the presenter as if they are asking you questions directly. These real experiences are irreplaceable, but what silent practice does is this. It fills the gap. It gives you practice when there is no real conversation available. It builds the words, the phrases, and the structures that you need so that when the real conversation comes, you are not starting from zero. You are starting from a place of preparation. So here is your challenge for this week. Every single day, take 5 to 10 minutes and practice one conversation inside your head. On Monday, practice ordering something at a cafe. On Tuesday, practice a conversation with a neighbor or a colleague. On Wednesday, practice asking for help in a shop. On Thursday, imagine talking about what you did yesterday. On Friday, practice a situation that you find personally challenging. Maybe it is a phone call. Maybe it is a formal meeting. Maybe it is talking to someone you have just met for the first time. On Saturday, practice something that is coming up in your real life next week. And on Sunday, speak it aloud. Record yourself. Listen back. Celebrate how far you have come. Every single conversation you practice inside your head is an investment. You may not see the result immediately, but over days and weeks and months, these small, quiet moments of practice build into something real. They build into fluency. They build into confidence. They build into the kind of English speaker you have always wanted to become. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I am Tom, and this is Sarvar.English. If this lesson helped you, please share it with another English learner who might need it too. Until next time, keep listening, keep practicing, and keep creating small English conversations wherever you go. Every conversation inside your head is one step closer to the real conversation you are ready to have. Bye for now.